Hello and welcome to Austrac's AML CTF Essentials webinar series. This is the final webinar in a four-part series designed to introduce you to Austrac and Australia's anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing AML CTF regime. Austrac acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people watching us today. My name is Hayley and I will be your presenter today. I'm joined by my co-presenter Nikki and we are from Austrac's Industry, Education and Outreach team. Before we get started, please note the information conveyed in this presentation is general in nature and it does not constitute legal advice. You may consider obtaining your own independent professional advice, which can take into account your business's specific and individual needs. Today's content is at an introductory level, and more detailed information can be accessed on the Austrac website. We will use examples and explanations throughout the session today to clarify various terms that you will see used under the AML CTF regime. These have been simplified for introductory purposes and do not comprehensively define each term or scenario. To support you in preparing for and understanding the AML CTF reforms and regulation, our team will be delivering a multi-tiered education campaign from now until your obligations come into effect in July 2026. Following the release of core guidance in October 2025, we will commence tiers 2 to 4 of the education campaigns, providing more in-depth information about governance, money laundering and terrorism financing risk, and your AML CTF obligations. We have developed a series of webinars to ensure you are aware of your AML CTF obligations and regulation. Our first webinar series is on AML CTF Essentials. As you can see on the screen, there are 4 webinars in this series. Webinar 1 provides an introduction to Austrac. Webinar 2 provides an overview of your AML CTF obligations. Webinar 3 covers money laundering and terrorism financing risk. And this, the last webinar in the series, is about outsourcing in the AML CTF context. Through this webinar, we aim to explain what outsourcing is and how it can be applied in the AML CTF context. We will also identify some of the benefits of outsourcing as well as the risks it can pose to your business and how to manage these risks. Finally, we will discuss some practical steps you can take to ensure that you're equipped to engage suitable third-party providers and can implement effective ongoing oversight and management of any outsourcing arrangements. So let's begin. Businesses may outsource functions relating to their AML CTF functions for a range of reasons, such as accessing specialist AML CTF knowledge and expertise and managing the cost of compliance. Outsourcing means entering into an arrangement with a third party to carry out an AML CTF function on your behalf. Reporting entities may outsource AML CTF functions such as developing AML CTF programs, transaction reporting, transaction monitoring, or customer due diligence. Austrac acknowledges outsourcing can be important in assisting reporting entities to meet their obligations. In 2024, 56% of current reporting entities indicated in the annual compliance report that they outsource one or more AML CTF functions. With the expansion of Australia's AML CTF regime, we are aware that some third-party providers may already be offering solutions and or claiming to have Austrac endorsement. Please be aware that Austrac does not endorse solutions or products to assist reporting entities to meet their AML CTF obligations. However, we do understand that some entities may need assistance. If you are not already aware, Austrac is developing AML-CTF starter program kits for small businesses in the new reporting entity sectors. The kits will include an AML-CTF program for a typical, low complexity small business. If you think this might include you, you may not need to seek a third party for the development of your program. We have also designed today's content to provide you with information on outsourcing before your obligations come into effect. It is important that you are aware of Austrac's expectations when it comes to outsourcing and what you need to consider if you outsource an AML CTF function. Throughout today's webinar, you'll hear the term third-party provider. This refers to the provider of your outsourced service. A third-party provider or outsourced service provider might be a regulatory technology business known as RegTech. RegTechs offer technology solutions catering specifically to businesses with regulatory requirements such as AML CTF requirements. There are also providers such as legal professionals, AML CTF advisors and consultants who may assist reporting entities in meeting their obligations. These providers offer a range of services. If you choose to outsource, the responsibility of complying with your obligations remains with you. It does not become the responsibility of the third-party provider. This means that you or your business will remain legally liable for any breach of your AML CTF obligations and may incur a penalty. The AML CTF functions you choose to outsource will depend on your specific business and may include development of money laundering and terrorism financing risk assessments, development of AML CTF policies, conducting customer due diligence such as identification and verification checks. This will differ to relying on customer due diligence performed by another reporting entity. Also, checking if a customer is a politically exposed person or if they appear on a watch list. Conducting sanctions checks. Again, this differs to you using government databases such as the Australian Sanctions Office Consolidated List, transaction monitoring, and reporting. Outsourcing arrangements can include one-off services or ongoing arrangements. An outsourcing arrangement which occurs as a once-off might be engaging a third-party provider to assist in developing your AML-CTF policies. An ongoing outsourcing arrangement might look like engaging a provider to carry out transaction monitoring for you continuously. The functions you outsource and your business needs will determine the nature and frequency of your engagement with a third-party provider and the type of third party that you engage. Again, if you're thinking about outsourcing one or more of your AML CTF functions, it's important to understand that whilst third-party providers can support you, your business is still responsible for meeting its AML CTF obligations. Austrac has developed guidance to help you manage these arrangements effectively, and this can be found on the Austrac website. Outsourcing AML CTF functions can potentially expose your business to money laundering and terrorism financing risk, where the use of outsourcing creates vulnerabilities that criminals can exploit, and AML CTF compliance risk, where you fail to meet AML CTF obligations due to poor due diligence, implementation, or monitoring of outsourcing arrangements. These risks are more likely to arise if an outsourced service provider doesn't understand your business's risk profile, lacks the expertise to perform AML CTF functions, and or isn't subject to adequate oversight or monitoring. If you outsource, if your outsourcing risks are not managed, the consequences can be serious. That is why it is important to make sure any arrangement that you enter into aligns with your business's risk appetite and is approved by your senior management or board. Before you enter into an outsourcing arrangement, you should conduct appropriate due diligence on the service provider to assess whether the service provider is suitable for your business. You will need to make sure the provider understands your AML/CTF obligations to be able to carry out the relevant AML/CTF functions on your behalf. You also need to ensure they take into account any money laundering and terrorism financing risks specific to your business and sector. Ask the provider about their experience in delivering similar services and whether they hold relevant qualifications or expertise. You can take your assessment further by requesting a demonstration of the provider's services or seeking references from other businesses. Ideally, those with a similar size or risk profile to yours. Where possible, it is best to consult businesses not suggested by the outsourced service provider. You might also check how they plan to tailor their services to suit your business. Are they able to work with you to adapt their solution? Can they demonstrate their understanding of your industry and type of business rather than just offering you a generic template? There are a few things you should avoid when outsourcing your AML/CTF functions. We recommend avoiding the use of generic solutions or templates that can be reasonably that can't be reasonably tailored to your business and its risks. We also recommend avoiding entering into an outsourcing arrangement that doesn't involve ongoing processes for review and updates to the services you're being provided. Reviews and updates help to ensure the services remain effective and aligned with your obligations and risk over time. I'll now hand over to Nikki, who will finish us off.
Great. Thank you so much, Hayley. When outsourcing AML/CTF functions, you still need to protect sensitive information. One critical area to be aware of is tipping off. This is when someone discloses information that could reasonably be expected to prejudice a law enforcement investigation. Even if it's unintentional, tipping off is a serious criminal offence and can carry significant penalties. We spoke about tipping off in webinar 2, and if you need more information on tipping off, you can learn more on the AUSTRAC website. To reduce the risk of tipping off, you need to be clear on what information must not be shared. There are legal restrictions on sharing certain types of information, including suspicious matter reports and information about AUSTRAC issued notices. If you're not sure what can be shared, seek advice first. Sharing the wrong thing could breach the law and put your business at risk. To help prevent tipping off, AUSTRAC recommends building safeguards into your outsourcing arrangements from the start. This might include clearly defining what information can and cannot be shared, limiting access to sensitive data, and regularly reviewing contractual obligations. You may also consider seeking independent advice before entering into an arrangement. This can help ensure that both you and the third party provider understand any legal restrictions on sharing information. Now let's continue. To confirm that a third party provider will properly carry out the relevant AML/CTF functions, AUSTRAC recommends using a written and legally binding outsourcing agreement. The complexity of the agreement will vary depending on the nature of the service. For one-off services, the agreement may be relatively simple. Ongoing arrangements are likely to require more detail in the agreement and stronger oversight. Documented service levels are important. They help to set clear performance targets. They explain how the solution will be tailored to your business and outline how any issues or failures will be addressed. The agreement should also identify the person or persons in your business who will oversee this arrangement and be responsible for managing it. There are also a number of important details to include. For example, when the agreement starts and ends, whether the service is ongoing or a one off, and what steps the service provider will take, and how their role fits into your business's processes. It is also important to have a contingency plan in place. Consider how your business will continue to meet its obligations if the outsourced provider fails to deliver their services as agreed. And finally, make sure your agreement includes how changes will be managed. This includes responding to the outcomes of a review, implementing any updates received from AUSTRAC, including any legislative updates or new guidance, for example, or adapting to changes in your business's risk profile. As we've mentioned a few times, it is important to continue to monitor and review your ongoing outsourcing arrangements. These reviews should happen at regular intervals and not just when something goes wrong or there's an incident. You should also update your arrangement if there are changes to your business's money laundering and terrorism financing risks. Regular monitoring helps you confirm that the arrangement is still effective and your business continues to meet its AML/CTF obligations. If the outcomes of your monitoring and reviews are not what you expect, it is important to investigate and understand the cause so that you can take appropriate action. So, for example, if an outsourced transaction monitoring program is not identifying red flags in line with your expectations, you'll need to consider why. Is it due to an issue with the provider's service? Is there a gap in how your business has assessed its money laundering and terrorism financing risks? Or is there another factor at play? Finally, you'll also need to document how your business manages outsourcing arrangements as part of your AML/CTF program. This includes clearly outlining your internal processes, from assessing the risks of outsourcing to how you select and assess providers and how you'll monitor the arrangement over time. Your program should document who is responsible for these steps. You need to explain how you'll assess whether the services being delivered meet your needs and what you'll do if issues are identified. If changes to your outsourcing arrangements affect your AML/CTF program, those changes should be formally approved by your senior manager or managers. And any updates or approval should be recorded in writing, along with the reasons for this decision. You should also document your governance arrangements to oversee and stay informed about outsourcing. This includes who will receive updates on AML/CTF risks, who is accountable for the arrangement, and who will take action if things are not working as expected. Let's quickly review some key elements of effective outsourcing. Remember, outsourcing a function does not shift your AML/CTF obligations. Your business still remains responsible for meeting them, even if someone else is delivering the service. And be proactive. Review your arrangements regularly to make sure they still reflect your risks and obligations. Don't just leave it as a set and forget exercise. Choose providers who genuinely understand your AML/CTF obligations. AUSTRAC does not endorse or recommend any outsourced service providers. If you are approached by a provider now, be aware that the AML/CTF rules were just published on the 29th of August 2025, so ask questions and interrogate their offering carefully. If you fail to meet your obligations, there can be serious consequences. These might include increased scrutiny from AUSTRAC or law enforcement, financial penalties, or remedial direction. These actions can be made public and may cause reputational damage to your business. If you need support, the AUSTRAC website offers practical guidance and education to help reporting entities outsource functions safely. We recognise that for businesses in the newly regulated sectors, these obligations are new. For many, the concept of money laundering and its connection to crime may also be new. We do not expect newly regulated businesses to be perfect at identifying and controlling for money laundering risks from day one. We do expect, however, honest efforts to meet your obligations and report suspicions to AUSTRAC. We have published our expectations of new reporting entities come 1st July 2026, and these are to be enrolled as a reporting entity. You will be able to access the online enrolment system from 31 March 2026. Also, have an AML-CTF program in place, either because you've adopted the starter program provided by AUSTRAC or have developed your own. Have an AML-CTF compliance officer appointed. Also, have your staff trained on your AML-CTF program and processes, and be ready to ask your customers questions and report suspicious activity. After 1 July 2026, AUSTRAC will focus its enforcement in the newly regulated sectors or entities who show or who willfully ignore the obligation to enrol and or we suspect are complicit with or willfully blind to money laundering in their business. One important step you can take now is to think about what your business is able to do in-house and what you may need to outsource. It's possible you may have capacity to do everything within your business. Some of you may already have outsourced certain operations. So have a think about the policies or procedures you already have in place and how you manage these arrangements. For example, what kind of due diligence do you perform on third-party providers? Or what kind of governance and agreements do you have in place to ensure they provide suitable services? And lastly, stay informed about AUSTRAC's new education initiatives and resources by visiting the education and guidance page on the AUSTRAC website. So now, as you can see here on the slide, you can see where we are on your AML-CTF Essentials checklist. This webinar right now is webinar 4 on outsourcing. We have seen a few early enrolments. However, our current forms do not yet include the designated services for new reporting entities. So it's important to enroll with the correct services as these impact reporting obligations. AUSTRAC will provide updated guidance and forms ahead of the new obligations taking effect. We encourage you to refer to the published resources and guidance on our website for further information. We have referenced a number of key legislative dates today, and you can see these now on the slide. The reform page on the AUSTRAC website also has these key dates, which may be updated in line with any changes. You will receive important information, including any changes to key dates, if you have subscribed to the latest updates about the AML-CTF legislative reforms. As I mentioned earlier, we are from AUSTRAC's Industry, Education and Outreach team, and our team will be delivering significant education for Tranche 2 entities ahead of your obligations coming into effect in 2026. This brings us to the end of webinar 4 on outsourcing, and we hope that you found this webinar valuable and encourage you to view all the webinars in this Essentials series. Thank you and bye for now.